Hello, it is June 14th, 2024, and this is Political Dharma with Alan Zundel. Well, a couple of days ago on Wednesday, I gave a breaking news story about how the Federal Elections Commission had supposedly ordered CNN to include Robert F. Kennedy Jr. within its upcoming presidential debate. As I soon learned from a post from a viewer, I was inaccurate in several details on that story. I quickly posted a correction, but today I'm going to go more, now that I've had the time, I'm going to go into that story, give you an accurate story about it, and then also talk about how not only I got it wrong, but a couple of other news sources that I use got it wrong as well. So we'll be talking about that and what happened, and also progress that the Kennedy campaign has made in getting on the ballot in a couple more states, as well as the problems they're having keeping on the ballot, keeping their ballot status in some of the states where they've gathered signatures. And beyond that, the Green Party and Jill Stein have also made progress in getting on the ballot, as well as having problems with challenges to their ballot access. And finally, the Libertarian Party, as I've been talking about, they nominated their presidential candidate a couple of weeks ago, but there's been turmoil within the party over that nominee, with several state affiliates of the Libertarian Party refusing to put their candidate on the ballot. And this week I got news that the chair of the party is trying to bring people together to reconcile, to resolve some of those issues that they're having. So let me get started first of all with this story. And now, of course, the background for this is that the Biden campaign bypassed the Presidential Elections Commission and negotiated directly with the Trump campaign and CNN and ABC to set up presidential debates, an early one to be held on June 27th, just in a couple of weeks here, on CNN, the cable news network, and then another one to be held on ABC, the American Broadcasting Company. You all know what the acronyms mean. I don't know why I'm spelling it out for you. Later in September sometime. So they negotiated directly with them, and the CNN, the early one, both ABC and CNN set criteria for who would be able to get into the presidential debates. Now, the criteria they set was supposed to help exclude Robert F. Kennedy Jr. by saying that Biden and Trump, because they got enough delegates to get the nomination of their parties, were presumptive nominees, and so they're going to be on enough ballots to get a majority in the Electoral College, whereas Kennedy has not got ballot access, official ballot access in enough states to get that majority in the Electoral College that he would hypothetically need to win the election, that he would need to win the election if he hypothetically got all those electoral votes. So this is a story about how that presumptive nominee category has been challenged. Let's go, first of all, this is the comment that I got from one of my viewers saying, he posted this just shortly after I posted my original video getting the story wrong. Apparently his name is Dylan Hammernet Marshall. Thank you, Dylan. Respectfully, he didn't get the story right. He was right, I was wrong, so I had to post a correction to that. So let's go into some of the story, where it originated from and how people more than I got it wrong. So this is the original story. It was from the Island News, which is a news publication in Hawaii. I don't know if it's published in print, probably just online. Anyway, the headline says the CNN debate criteria not backed by FEC regulation, FEC standing for Federal Elections Commission, which is very accurate title. What they found out was that the criteria they're using to include Biden and Trump but exclude Kennedy didn't have any standing in the FEC regulations. Now let's go into the story a little bit deeply. This story, by the way, is by Jeremy Lee. I want to give him credit for breaking this story. Here's the article itself. What they did is they reached out to the Federal Elections Commission and asked whether this presumptive nominee category was backed by any kind of FEC regulation. And the FEC confirmed with Island News that that designation was not officially recognized. The presumptive nominee category is not used at all by the FEC. So the quote that they got was, the phrase is not in the FEC's debate regulation. And the FEC didn't say anything beyond that because there's a complaint by the Kennedy campaign against the Biden and Trump campaigns, as well as the CNN using that criteria. So that's still being considered by the FEC. So they didn't have anything else to say other than that phrase, presumptive nominee, is not something that is actually in their regulations. Now, looking further in the story, Island News also reached out to the Commission on Presidential Debates, which is a different entity that I got confused when I gave my correction. So now I'm correcting my correction. But the co-chairman of the Commission on Presidential Debates also said that this category presumptive nominee was not something they ever used to determine who could be included in their debates. He said, until the conventions take place, we don't know who the nominees will be. That's how they handle it anyway, but that's different than the FEC. So right after that, this was, I think on Monday, let me double check here. I don't want to get something else wrong in the story. Yeah, this came out on Monday originally in Island News. And then the Kennedy campaign within a day had a press release. Now, if you look at the press release headline, this is on Tuesday. It says, FEC, CNN presidential debate violates campaign finance laws if Kennedy is kept off stage. Now, that makes it sound like this was a statement by the FEC that the CNN presidential debate would violate the law if Kennedy was kept off the stage. Now, that's not quite accurate because this is the opinion of the Kennedy campaign, or at least the person who wrote this press release, that it was violating the law. All the FEC actually said was that they didn't have that category of presumptive nominee in their regulations. So let's look deeper into the press release, and I've highlighted something here. It says the Federal Elections Commission recent public statement regarding CNN's presidential debate makes it clear that CNN will violate federal law absent the inclusion of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, that makes it sound like that was the statement of the Federal Elections Commission, that CNN would violate the law if they didn't include Kennedy. But as we just saw, they didn't actually say that. So this is really the opinion of the press release person writing this, that it's going to violate the law unless they include Kennedy. The implication, I think, is there that maybe that's what the FEC would find, but there's no basis for that yet. Now, this is further into the press release. The FEC has now made clear that the phrase presumptive nominee is not in their regulation. Okay, that's what they said. They made that clear. And therefore does not exempt CNN from the prohibition on excessive campaign contributions. The therefore statement is not something the FEC said, but is something put into this press release, drawing a conclusion from what the FEC said. So the idea is that the CNN, if they use this presumptive nominee category to include Biden and Trump, but exclude Kennedy, is doing a favor, essentially giving a campaign contribution by holding these debates to Biden and Trump. And so it's all the cost of the presidential debate is something that they're contributing to those campaigns. So that was the Kennedy press release, which is already a little bit, it's hard to read that without understanding what the FEC actually said and what is the opinion of the Kennedy campaign or the person writing this. Now let's get to the Kennedy Beacon email that was sent out the next day on Wednesday, and this is what I saw. I wasn't actually looking for material at that point for this podcast. I was simply taking a moment to check out my emails on a very busy day, and this is what I saw. An email from the Kennedy Beacon, and the headline on this is breaking news. FEC rules in favor of Kennedy. He must be allowed in the CNN debate. Now this is taking it even further by saying that the FEC made a ruling which would be an official judgment about the merits of Kennedy's complaint about the CNN's rules, which it wasn't. They didn't say anything like that. There was no ruling. And this is where I got the idea originally. This is what put it in my head, that the FEC had made a decision and they had ordered CNN to include Kennedy. But that's an inaccurate title. So let's go on to see the substance of this email from the Kennedy Beacon. Now you see that I've highlighted some of this. It said in the first paragraph, the Federal Elections Commission has informed CNN that Kennedy must be included in its June 27 debate. That is not true. The Federal Elections Commission has not spoken to CNN. They responded to an email from the Island News, and they didn't say that Kennedy had to be included. They simply said that the category of presumptive nominee was not something they recognized. Further down, you see that another highlighted area says that News Nation reported that the FEC told CNN that it would be violating campaign finance law if Kennedy was kept off the debate stage. I want you to notice two things about this. One is that they're repeating this idea that the FEC told CNN that they couldn't keep Kennedy off the stage, which was not accurate. And also that the News Nation reported on it. When I followed that link, it wasn't actually News Nation. So this particular email got a lot of things wrong, and I don't want to give the name of that person because it might embarrass them, and I don't want to go back to the other slide, and I don't remember the person's name. So this is further down in the email that you're now seeing on your screen if you're watching this on the video form, and it says, as of this writing, CNN has not responded to the FEC ruling, once again saying a FEC ruling, which it was not. It was simply an FEC statement from some anonymous spokesperson that they don't recognize presumptive nominee category. But it is true that the CNN, at least to my knowledge, even at this point, didn't respond to this news story. But it said, however, the ruling has been picked up by Hawaii's Island News. That is true. The story was picked up by Island News. The story was actually generated by Island News, and there is no ruling. So this is what I originally saw. It gave me the clear idea, the impression from the way it was written, that the FEC had actually made a ruling, and then the story had been picked up by the news, and it included the idea that they had to include Kennedy in the debate, some kind of direct communication from the FEC to CNN telling them they had to put Kennedy on the stage, none of which is true. So in all that, you can see, I don't want to just try to remove the blame for myself for getting it wrong, but you can see how I got that impression. I saw that email first, which talked about a ruling, which talked about ordering Kennedy to be on the debate stage, and then to double check on that, I went to the Kennedy's campaign website and saw the press release and the headline there. They were a little more careful, but still it wasn't clear what was their opinion and what the FEC actually said. And finally, I did go to the supposed News Nation video where they were breaking the story, and we're going to see what they actually had to say now. So that's how I got my impression about this. Yes, I was too quick, didn't check further, and got it wrong, and I'm very sorry about that. I've learned from this. I'm going to do even more checking. Go to the original source when I can find it. You know, if the FEC said it or not. I should have gone to the FEC to look for these statements, but I didn't, so I'll take the blame for that. Not just trying to exonerate myself. I'm trying to give you an accurate picture here, because you may have seen these other statements, the press statement or the news report, and got the false impression as well. So when I went to that link about the News Nation, I found out, number one, it wasn't News Nation, it was Newsmax. And I checked out News Nation, couldn't find any story about this, so this must be the one they're thinking of. And again, the headline says, RFK, the headline, the title of the post, of the video, RFK Jr. must be in presidential debate, FEC tells CNN. Well, none of that is accurate. FEC did not communicate with CNN and did not say RFK had to be included in the presidential debate. Now let me play the Newsmax video for you so you can see how they got it wrong as well.
So according to the FEC, Katrina,
Yep.
they have said they would be breaking the law.
They would be breaking, exactly, campaign finance laws, exactly. So, I mean, they're going to have to do it all. I mean, CNN's not going to want to be slapped with a massive fine, right?
I think we're going to see some developments here with this. This is very interesting.
This is a big deal, yes. And it's interesting. I want to follow up on that, too. Just what the FEC is saying, they were saying that every member of CNN who is participating in planning, executing, and holding this debate is at risk of prosecution, like Michael Cohen was, because he violated campaign finance laws. So again, a very acute risk if RFK Jr. isn't in there.
Okay, you can see that Newsmax got the details of that wrong as well, talking about how the FEC had said that it was illegal for CNN to exclude Kennedy from the debate stage, and that they would be liable for, violating campaign finance regulations, none of which was true. So this story, and I wasn't the only one got it wrong, and the stuff I checked were not accurate, so that's how that came about. Now, what I wanted to add to this story is not only, number one, was I not thoroughly checking out my sources here, and number two, that some of the sources I did check were not very accurate. Number three, I think I was so eager to get this thing out fast without doing more checking because I didn't have time on that day, or didn't take the time. I had other things I had to get to. But I was so eager to do it, I didn't take the time to check more thoroughly because I have been becoming more and more favorable to Kennedy as a candidate. I recently finished his book on Wuhan, the Wuhan Virus Institute, and how they were involved in manipulating, viruses, and how the COVID virus pandemic probably originated from this lab, which was funded in large part by the United States government, and Anthony Fauci had a role in that apparently. So I read that book and it was very impressive, and it made me think, wow, Kennedy's really doing a lot of fact checking here. This is a pretty thoroughly researched book, and it persuaded me there's something to that side of the equation. I had an open mind about it before when this controversy was swirling as to, way back in the pandemic, is it a natural origin, or was it coming from some kind of human contrived virus? I was trying to keep an open mind about that, but now I'm more persuaded into the version that Kennedy has been talking about because he's really thought this through and done some research on it. So I'm leaning that way and seeing that he really does his homework when he talks about things. And then also, I've been reading lately this book, it's behind me here, The Real RFK Jr., and finding that the chapters, I'm near the end of it, I haven't quite finished, but near the end, the chapters on viruses. Now, this is another big thing that Kennedy also gets criticized for, is his supposed anti-vaccine stance. And reading what he has to say about that, the author has to say about how Kennedy did his research and what the sources were and what the various arguments were, I'm finding myself more persuaded on that as well. Again, I tried to keep an open mind on it, but now I'm seeing that Kennedy is not simply being contrarian or picking up strange ideas. He did some research on this. As an environmental lawyer for many decades, he knows how to use research carefully in court cases. He, was trying major companies who have a phalanx of lawyers, high-powered, high-priced lawyers, trying to defend the company against charges that they've, poisoned the environment and caused harm to human beings. So Kennedy's law firm and his participation in these cases means that he had to go through a lot of science involving toxicity of chemicals and how they enter the environment and then into the human beings and how they damage us and damage fish and the rest. So he has to be able to do that. He has to research science carefully, and then he has to, make a persuasive case to a jury that, he knows what he's talking about, even though they're hearing from the other side all their arguments. So I'm persuaded that he knows what he's doing when he looks into science, probably a lot better than 90% of the people criticizing him for supposed anti-science views. And, I'm not going to say I totally 100% agree with him because I don't know enough about it. But he certainly makes, it looks like he did his research and he knows what he's talking about. And whether he's right or wrong, he did not just come up with this as something, from a bunch of people getting him involved in just accepting their word on what happens with that. Anyway, okay, so on that measure, I want to say I become more, I just want to give you the where I'm coming from, because I've said in the past, I don't agree with Kennedy on anything, and I really favored his candidacy because I thought it would help break open the two-party system, which I still think is true and I still support him for. But I'm becoming more favorable to him as a candidate, as somebody that knows what he's talking about on a lot of these issues. Whether he's right or wrong, he is not ignorant, and he's not unintelligent, and he's not I don't think he's just susceptible to bad theories. So let's go on to Kennedy's ballot access efforts here. His campaign announced just recently, I think it was yesterday, the 13th, that he got enough signatures to gain ballot access in Alaska, they said they got almost twice as many signatures as they actually needed for that state. And then the same day they released a press release saying that they got enough signatures to gain ballot access in Tennessee. And here they got almost 4 times as many signatures as they needed, which was, the team turned in a little over 1,000, so the required signatures must have been in the realm of 250, a very low bar there. But between the two of those, that adds some more electoral votes. So if we're counting his potential electoral votes in order to determine if he's going to be able to, if he should qualify for these presidential debates, with Tennessee and Alaska, it brings him up to 286 electoral votes between all the states that he's met the requirements in. That's without the state of Nevada, which refused his petition, and which he's now got a lawsuit. If you include Nevada, if he wins that lawsuit, that's another 6 electoral votes. That's 292 electoral votes, which means Kennedy would have more than enough to get that hypothetical 270 votes in the Electoral College, which is the minimum they would need to win in the Electoral College. And so you can make a good case that they deserve to be in the debate if the criterion is you got enough ballots to get into the presidential, to get a majority in the Electoral College. Kennedy's got a better case than Biden or Trump if that presumptive nominee category is not going to be upheld by the FEC. So, but if you talk about only official recognition by states, because in some of those states he has not yet turned in signatures or they have not yet been certified by the Secretary of State, he's got 168. Now that also is under potential challenge as well. And let's go through some of the states very quickly here where he is getting some challenges. Now this is the one that most recently came up. This is in North Carolina. And the complaint here was he used the We the People Party as a vehicle for getting on the ballot in North Carolina. They gathered signatures to get a ballot line for We the People, which is going to use Kennedy as his campaign. And the complaint was, this came, again, the complaint came from Clear Choice, which is an organization set up by Democrats and staffed by Democrats and funded by the Democratic National Committee, that the We the People Party of Kennedy was a sham political party. Let me give you some of the, put up on the screens some of the details of this news report. So you see the sham political party in the headline there. And this is the formal complaint that was filed with the Federal Elections Committee and also I think with the North Carolina Elections Bureau, whatever the official title of that is. It was an unlawful effort by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to evade the requirements of an unaffiliated candidacy. So essentially they're saying he should have filed it as an independent candidate, for which there are different requirements than getting a political party on the ballot, by creating a sham political party and wrongly telling voters they're placing Mr. Kennedy directly on the ballot. If he wanted to run as an unaffiliated candidate, he'd have to file a different petition and do it earlier. So they're saying he was deceiving people by telling them that they were trying to put Kennedy on the ballot, where what they were doing is putting this Kennedy political party on the ballot. I don't see why that would bother any of the people signing the petition, because the We the People Party is going to put Kennedy on the ballot if they get a ballot line. So, but we don't know how they're going to rule on this. They might throw it out, so he's got to fight back against that. And then in New York, one of my viewers asked, well, what's going on in New York? You know that Kennedy turned in about 3 times as many signatures as needed in New York, which is a state with a very difficult set of requirements for getting on the ballot. But he turned in 3 times as many signatures as required, and now the Democratic Party once again is backing efforts through the Democratic National Committee to keep him off the ballot. So this particular story you're seeing here, that the New York voters backed by DNC, what is this, from USA Today, sue to keep Robert F. Kennedy Jr. off the ballot. So they brought a lawsuit in the courts and also brought a complaint to the New York Board of Elections. I think that's the official title of it. Anyway, you get the idea, whatever agency is responsible. Now, this was in a particular county. What they did is they hunted down a couple of voters and had those voters file this complaint and file this this lawsuit in this particular county. And then in another county here, this is Dutchess County, same thing. They got some couple of voters to complain, to file a complaint, file a lawsuit. And the kind of complaints in both these lawsuits are that there's problems with the signatures, things like they're illegible, or the person who signed is not a registered voter, or that the address or the date given on the petition is wrong, or they didn't fill it in. So all these particular details about signatures. Now, in my mind, it would be pretty hard to invalidate like more than 100,000 signatures in order to invalidate the whole petition. But who knows? If they get one thing saying that he got something wrong, that applies to all the ballots, all the signature petitions, he could get knocked off the ballot in New York. And one of those things would be, they say, he did not use his real address. He lives in California and not in New York. That's what they're saying, although Kennedy keeps an official residence in New York and has his driver's license there and his voter's registration there and other things like that. So how those cases are going to be decided, I don't know. The Florida story just came out recently. Let's see, when was this? This is today, the 14th. So the Reform Party now the Reform Party in Florida, which lost its ballot status a couple of years ago, nominated Kennedy to be its presidential candidate, and then it just recently, like in the last week or two, regained its ballot status. So they're going to put Kennedy on the ballot as the candidate of the Reform Party of Florida. But some of the activists within that party challenged the nomination and demanded that there's a new convention. So let me get into that story here, some of the details of it. This is an email that the Reform Party activists sent to the party national people and to the leadership of Florida, and as well as the Florida Bureau of Election Records. Okay, I got that one right because I wrote it down. But they're saying that they're appalled by the Reform Party National Committee to anoint Robert Kennedy as the Reform Party presidential nominee. Now, I thought it was just the Florida Party and not the National Committee, but something's going on there. They had a National Committee. It violates the National Committee's governing documents and smells of a corrupt bargain between the national leadership and the Kennedy campaign. In other words, they think the Kennedy campaign gave them money in return for nominating them. And I was speculating that they liked Kennedy and they wanted to nominate him, and Kennedy also offered to help fund them to regain their ballot access because they had to pay to have an audit of their finances in order to turn that into the state to get their ballot access back, which would, be in Kennedy's advantage. He's not simply paying them off. He would have been paying to get ballot access, which is what he's been trying to do. So they complained, and then there was a response from the people who made the decision to do this. Another email here, or a statement, I guess, saying that the bylaws were followed, that the old bylaws were replaced, but both of the bylaws have the same thing about giving notice, and they did do that. So this is a dispute within the Reform Party over whether or not they should have made Robert F. Kennedy Jr. their nominee, and apparently some of these activists would have wanted to run for the presidential nomination themselves if this hadn't happened the way it had. So I'm not sure how much merit they have there, or it doesn't look like the National Committee is going to do anything about it. I think they'd have to bring a lawsuit against that, against the party officers in order to force a new convention or to take Kennedy off the ballot or whatever they're trying to achieve here. I'm not sure what the Florida Bureau of Elections Records is going to do about this. I assume generally here in Oregon anyway, they don't like to get involved in the internal affairs of the party. They leave that to the courts to decide. So I'm assuming maybe in Florida it's the same. That's what's going to happen. Don't know yet. But Kennedy's having challenges here and there and everywhere. I don't think the Democrats had anything to do with that, but you never know. It may be so, it may not be so. But let's turn to the Green Party and Jill Stein, how they are progressing in ballot access as well. Now, last week I told you that they had recently gotten on the ballot in Nevada. What I didn't realize is that in the 2 days before that, they had also gotten on the ballot in other states. So you can see on your screen that they got Green Party got ballot access in Idaho on June 6th, in Georgia on June 7th, and then in Nevada on June 8th, meaning that now the Green Party is on the ballot in 23 states, by my count, and the District of Columbia. And I think that's fairly accurate. The Green Party website is not updated very often, so I don't think they have all those states in yet, but that's what I dug up. Okay, so Green Party's on the ballot in about 23 states. I didn't bother to count their electoral votes because Jill Stein has nowhere near the 15% in a public opinion poll of voters favoring her. That would be the second criterion she had to, or the second criteria, getting it wrong again, get it mixed up. So plural criteria. She hasn't gotten anywhere near the 15%, which she would have to get into the presidential debates as well. But they are not off the hook as far as having challenges to their ballot access as well. And here is Jill Stein's statement about problems in Nevada, the most recent state where they got ballot access.
The anti-Democratic Party has just gone on the attack. The Green Party in Nevada and volunteers in Nevada collected 30,000 signatures. Incredible. 30,000 signatures in Nevada, 3 times the number of signatures that's actually required in the state. After we submitted them, and the state then approved our campaign to have a ballot line in Nevada, within 24 hours, there goes the anti-Democratic Party filing an injunction in court to stop our placement on the ballot. So we're going to go to court. We're going to fight this in court because it's outrageous. This is how, full of integrity, inspiration, and democratic values the Democratic Party is. This is what they've been doing, actually, for decades.
So some justified cynicism there from Jill Stein about how democratic the Democratic Party actually is. And to give equal time, both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have a decades-long history of trying to keep the Libertarian Party and the Green Party off ballots in the states so as not to affect their ability to attract votes in those particular states, especially where it's an important swing state like Nevada, which Nevada is. One of my viewers asked me why Jill Stein was able to turn in her signatures to get on the ballot in Nevada when Kennedy was blocked because he didn't name a vice presidential nominee along with his presidential bid. And the answer, I believe, is that the Nevada effort was to get the Green Party ballot access and anticipation that they were going to nominate Jill Stein, not to get her on the ballot as an independent candidate. So if it's for the Green Party, they don't have to list the presidential or a vice presidential nominee in their paperwork. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So let's turn now to the Libertarian Party. And one of the things I said last week was that there was some challenges to Chase Oliver, the nominee of the Libertarian Party, the presidential nominee, in getting accepted by all the states, the state party affiliates. So last week, I think Montana, they rejected Oliver as their candidate. They weren't going to put him on the ballot, and the party there actually said they want the National Committee to reject Oliver and have a new nomination. And the Libertarian Party's chair in Colorado said that I believe it was a she, but this person, the chair, was going to endorse Trump and vote for Trump, not for Oliver. So some pushback on their candidate, and there's more pushback this week as well. But Chase also has his supporters. In this case, it is in Oklahoma. You see here this story from Jordan Willow Evans in the Independent Political Report that in the state of Oklahoma, they did certify Chase Oliver as their presidential nominee, as well as his vice presidential mate, Mike Tremont, and got those certified to the ballot. So Oliver and Tremont were on the ballot in Oklahoma, but in other states, things aren't going as well for the Chase campaign. Again, from the Independent Political Report, Libertarian Party of New Hampshire rejects nominee Chase Oliver and will withhold support from him, so they're not going to put him on the ballot. And then this is from, I think I got this from the Independent Political Report as well. This is a ex post by the Libertarian Party of Colorado. Now remember, I just said the chair of that party said they're going to endorse Trump or vote for Trump. And here the Libertarian Party, and the yellow highlighting is from me, they will not nominate Chase Oliver and Mike Tremont for the president and vice president. Rather, they said their delegates, which went to the convention, voted NODA, that is none of the above, in the final round of voting, so they're not supporters of Chase Oliver and they don't want to endorse him. And they criticize Oliver for the same kind of things we saw on this NODA 300 website last week, which were things like that Chase Oliver was masking up and using social distancing during the pandemic, and also that he said that it's between parents and child to determine whether they want to have gender-affirming health care. And apparently this group thinks that this should be up to the state to block parents from doing that, which doesn't seem like a very libertarian position, but I'm not going to get in the middle of that fight because I'm not a libertarian. I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party, and I don't know the correct answer to that. Anyway, so there's been some pushback against Oliver, and this seems to be rending the party apart. Hard to tell how many ballots their candidate's going to be on, because even though they have ballot access in 30-something states, the party does, which of those states are actually going to put Oliver on their ballot as the presidential nominee is an open question, and whether the National Committee is going to make any decision to allow other people to be nominated in some states, as Libertarians for Robert F. Kennedy were trying to do, is an open question as well. So the final part of this is that the chair of the Libertarian Party, of the National Committee of the Libertarian Party, Angela McArdle, who was the one who invited Trump to their convention and is part of the Mises caucus, which, one other thing I want to add is that one of my viewers said to me, and I don't think I copied this, so I can't put it on the screen, I don't remember who they were, but they told me that this 300 in the NOTA 300 was probably not having anything to do with the movie 300 and the Spartans who defended their state against the Persians from that old story. But the 300 probably refers to the number of delegates at the National Convention who voted none of the above. So NOTA 300, that makes sense to me. I didn't go back and check, but I think 300 is about right. Anyway, so this is Angela McArdle, the chair of the National Committee. This is from the Third Party Watch, from George Phillies. She appointed a reconciliation committee, and she wants the states in which there are people complaining about the Oliver nomination to be willing to talk with the Oliver committee, see if some of their complaints can be resolved, and then this committee will, try to get things straightened out so that everybody's on the same page. And they want to do this by the end of the month. And she also gave some suggestions for doing this in a more productive manner. And we'll see how that plays out as well as time goes on. So the only other thing I have to add is June 20th is the deadline for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to qualify to be in CNN's presidential debate. And that's coming up this week. Let's see, today's the 14th, so 6 days from now. I guess that's on Thursday. So I'll be watching next week. I'll be very busy because I'm going to be moving out of my house and into another place over that weekend. But I will get back with you probably on Sunday and let you know how that went as far as Kennedy and CNN and the FEC and that whole ball of wax or bag of worms, whatever you want to call it, how that plays out as far as CNN determining who's going to get on the presidential debate stage and anything else that develops in the meantime as well. So thanks once again for watching. If you're not a subscriber and you would like to follow along with these alternative presidential candidacies, do subscribe. If you like this video, like it. If you don't like my videos where I got things garbled up, don't put on the thumbs down on that one. You're free to do that however you want to do it. But comments are also welcome. I've gotten corrections, I've gotten interesting comments and further context and information, and I really appreciate the comments. I'd like to hear from you, and especially those of you who express appreciation for this channel. If you'd like to help support the channel financially, go to the politicaldharma.com website, where there's hardly anything there other than a button for you to donate to me through a secure PayPal link. And I'm going to work on getting that website up once I get settled into my new place, which I'm not sure when settling will occur, but I'll try to get that website, more on the website. So anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk again soon. All right, bye.
With ease, I see the chains are breaking. We gained our focus, the moves we're making will prove to determine our self-worth as a passenger on this vehicle Earth.